If you've ever wondered how corruption scales from a bribe to a business model, this is the clearest tape you'll ever see. A US MQ-9 finds PO-13 and PO-15 escorting traffickers. Guns out, radar turning. Then PO-15 takes on nearly 2,000 kilos itself. Calm, efficient, practiced. I'll walk you through Operation Neptuno's ledger. 47 officers per zone, fixed percentages for services, and the intercepted calls that pushed prosecutors to file 31 sealed indictments. Watch to learn how legal pressure, not gunfire, became the chosen weapon against a state-backed drug corridor. Before we move on, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Why would 2 Venezuelan warships run point for 4 cartel boats in open water, guns uncovered, radars rotating, while a US drone watched from above in crystal detail? That's the question that snapped a routine patrol into a case file. The MQ-9 Reaper had been tasked to a box 120 nautical miles off Venezuela, a place where fast movers usually pop up on thermal like sewing needles. Operators expected go-fasts, long wakes, and a scatter once the drone's shadow passed over. What came into frame instead were 2 gray hulls with naval lines, maintaining station like shepherds. The feed sharpened, and the mission shifted from tracking smugglers to documenting a formation that shouldn't exist. Identification tightened as the aircraft dropped to a cleaner angle. PO-13, PO-15. Hull numbers burned legible against salt-worn paint. You could count the mounts. Foredeck guns at rest but manned. Side stations clear, radar domes sweeping at steady intervals. The convoy moved in tight intervals, high speed, wake spacing measured and consistent. No wobble, no stutter. The escort held a bracket, and the 4 smaller boats sat inside it like cargo trucks behind a lead cruiser. Formation discipline showed up in the details. The warships offset a beam, 1 ahead left, 1 aft right, maintaining a lane. The 4 fast boats ran in column, bows knifing the chop, each carrying stacks wrapped in plastic, uniform in size, lashed for a quick offload. The spacing stayed exact, the kind you get with practiced hand signals and fixed throttle settings, not chance. The drone's operators marked distances and headings. Each time the column adjusted, the escorts adjusted with them, turning a smuggling run into an escorted convoy. Here's the hinge that pinned the next moves. Stopping a sovereign warship at sea is not a traffic stop. It's a legal trigger. Interdiction on that hull would escalate into a standoff that no one wanted at that latitude. So the play changed. Instead of moving to block, the drone team switched to capturing every frame that would stand up under scrutiny. Numbers, timestamps, formation changes, cargo placement, personnel flow. Then the break. 1 runner slowed, wake thinning to foam. PO-15 eased out of its lane and curved back, not to push it along, but to mate hulls with a choreographed drift. Crew stepped out in life vests, not scrambling, not yelling. A sling came out, then 2. Bundles crossed the gap with a tempo like a metronome. Nearly 2,000 kilos moved from a crippled smuggler to a state vessel while the other boats held course. No panic, no flare guns, just a steady transfer. The clues stacked. Slings of uniform length, bundles that looked pre-weighed, taped for quick count and balance. Deckhands routed to lanes, 1 in, 1 out, no crossing traffic. A supervisor at the rail never touched a package, only pointed and counted. The pattern didn't feel improvised. It looked like a drill they had run before. PO-15 turned back online, then later bled speed as the convoy edged toward the Trinidad and Tobago boundary. Lights dimmed. 4 local boats closed in from the dark at a set speed, spread to receive. The exchange took about 20 minutes dock to dock at sea. Kissing, bows off. No voices raised, no spotlights. Then dispersal, each hull separating on preset bearings. The escorts lagging just long enough to clean up their lane and fall back toward home water. The tape recast the whole run. This wasn't a few sailors freelancing. It was a method that used the Navy as both shield and truck, with a timetable that matched a scheduled service. And once that sank in, the next step wrote itself. If there's a method, there's a rate, and somewhere a ledger that keeps the numbers straight. What does a naval escort cost when a military turns into a contractor for a cartel? Operation Neptuno set out to answer that with receipts, not rumors. It ran for 18 months and moved on money and messages. Informants inside cartel crews passed along contact trees and handoff protocols. Signals teams pulled voice and text from encrypted apps used near ports and offshore repeaters. Financial analysts traced deposits from shell firms in Panama and Curacao into accounts tied to Venezuelan officers and their families. The aim wasn't to chase hulls. It was to draw a wiring diagram that showed who signed off, who called, and who got paid. The first tension point came from the intercepts. Names surfaced with roles attached. Admiral Ernesto Cedeno Tobar, flagged as the Bolivarian Navy's top commander, appeared in contact with Ismael Zambada, known as Elmo in the traffic. Calls used short codes that mapped to maritime zones and referenced quotas by tonnage and percentage shares. The language wasn't loose. It read like scheduling, slots, windows, and fees. Each region had its own cadence, with performance notes on timeliness and loss rates. That led investigators to the structure. In each maritime zone, 47 officers were assigned on paper to routine duties. Neptuno's map showed those same 47 split into 5 functional teams. Lookouts handled coastal and offshore visual checks to flag patrol interference. Comms crews relayed movement updates and maintained link discipline on low-power channels. Logistics officers stacked fuel, maintenance, and spare parts through military depots to cover extended runs. Liaisons kept contact with cartel coordinators, set timing for handoffs, and smoothed delays. Payout handlers ran cash and crypto, counted shares, and settled disputes after a run. The rates turned the picture from corruption to a menu. 10% bought a basic escort, which meant deconfliction from routine patrols and a safe corridor through known radar sectors. 15% added tactical data, patrol rosters, radar gaps, and port exit windows. 20% covered direct transport on a naval hull, where contraband sat under state paint and weapons. High-risk or submarine-linked transfers pushed the take to 30% because of exposure, depth conditions, and international eyes. Percentages only matter when tied to value. Neptuno's ledgers pegs a single run at a shipment valuation of around $200 million. At 10%, 20 million moved through hands for a corridor service. At 20%, 40 million paid for direct naval lift. Splits flowed down the chain. Payout handlers carved off slices to zone liaisons, logistics, comms, and lookout teams, while a larger fixed share moved upward toward command signatories. The math worked across zones, which is how Neptuno caught consistency. Same spread, different coast. That's where the tape and the ledger lined up. PO-15's deck lift of sealed bundles and the methodical pacing matched the 20% tier for direct naval transport. The later approach near the Trinidad and Tobago line, with local boats closing to receive in a tight window, fit the controlled corridor service described under the 10% bracket. On paper, it looked clean. On video, it looked the same. Neptuno's package didn't rely on one domain. Prosecutors took the drone video, matched voices from intercepted calls to known users, and tied bank trails to dates on the flight logs and ship movements. Voice IDs paired with call metadata set time, place, and participants. Bank entries narrowed to payout windows after each escort. With that stack, the case supported 31 sealed indictments, each built on overlapping strands rather than a single witness or a single clip. So the alliance reads like a contract. Services are named. Fees track risk. Delivery includes command authorization embedded in every step. And when the papers moved from field teams to prosecutors, the venue moved too. From open water to court calendars and sanctions lists, where a missed patrol means less than a frozen account and a canceled visa that blocks the next payoff. When a Navy posts a rate card, corruption stops being rumor and becomes procurement. That's what the combined evidence showed. Services defined, roles assigned, money routed like any contract. The response matched the shift. Interdictions gave way to legal warfare built on synchronized footage, comms, and bank trails, formed into 31 sealed cases aimed at the network's backbone.